The BBC is once again in the news for the wrong reasons, and this time its criminal practices have led to the resignations of the top two executives of this disgraceful organization. Director General Tim Davie and the CEO of News and Current Affairs, Deborah Turness, had to resign this week after it became clear that the BBC Panorama program had doctored a video of Donald Trump's speech made on 6th of January 2021. Trump has also now threatened to sue the BBC for $1 billion for its criminal practice. I say criminal because what the BBC did was a deliberate attempt to accuse Trump of criminality. It accused Trump of instigating his supporters to cause violence at the Capitol Hill on 6th of January 2021 by stitching two clips separated by 50 minutes and passing it off as a single clip. Since this BBC Panorama program with doctored video was broadcast on the eve of the US elections on 28th of October 2024, this also had the potential to manipulate the outcome of the elections. But my question is this: why was BBC Panorama allowed to exist after what it was found to be doing exactly the same hit job against Jeremy Corbyn in 2019? Even then, the BBC had to confess to its criminality, just like it has done this time after the Telegraph newspaper exposed its illegal practices. But unlike Trump, Corbyn was too scared to drag the BBC to court and seek $1 billion in compensation. If you remember, Corbyn's election as the Labour leader had antagonized, in fact, angered the powerful Israeli lobby in the UK, particularly in the media. No wonder they had thrown their might behind destroying Corbyn's image by resorting to their much maligned tactic, which is invoking the bogey of anti Semitism. Corbyn was suddenly blamed for giving rise to anti Semitism immediately after being elected the leader of the Labour Party. You didn't have to be a rocket scientist to understand why. It was because of Corbyn's public utterances in support of Palestinians and against the rogue settler colony of Israel.
Our party is united in condemning the shooting of hundreds of unarmed demonstrators in Gaza by Israeli forces and the passing of Israel's discriminatory nation-state law. The continuing occupation, the expansion of illegal settlements, and the imprisonment of Palestinian children are an outrage. We support a two-state solution to the conflict with a secure Israel and a viable and secure Palestinian state. But a quarter of a century on from the Oslo Accords, we are no closer to justice or peace, and the Palestinian tragedy continues while the outside world stands by. As my great Israeli friend, the late Uri Avnery, who sadly died a short while ago, put it to me, what is the alternative to peace? A catastrophe for both peoples. And in order to help make that two-state settlement a reality, we will recognize a Palestinian state as soon as we take office.
And whenever the Israeli lobby wants a hit job carried out against an individual or an organization, can the BBC be left far behind? Once again, the BBC had moved with lightning speed to broadcast a special edition of BBC Panorama program titled "Is Labour Anti-Semitic?" No prize for guessing that the program was presented by John Ware, who has been a frequent contributor to the Jewish Chronicle website. The same Jewish Chronicle which was bought by Robbie Gibb, who is now a powerful member of the BBC board. Among other guests, this John Ware chap had interviewed one Ben Westerman, who was tasked by the Labour Party to investigate the allegations of anti-Semitism within the Labour Party. Watch this clip in horror and decide if BBC Panorama should have been allowed to exist after this broadcast. And should BBC Director General and other top names have resigned 6 years ago?
Description of Marks and Bird's disciplinary interview features in the documentary. The interview is conducted by Ben Westerman, a party official who is Jewish.
Harassment generally.
Ben Westerman received dozens of complaints. While interviewing one member, he was confronted with the very anti-Semitism he'd been investigating.
And we finished the interview. The person got up to leave the room and then turned back to me and said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "What do you mean, where am I from?" And she said, "I asked you, where are you from?" And I said, "I'm not prepared to discuss this." And they said, "Are you from Israel?" What can you say to that? You are assumed to be in cahoots with the Israeli government. It's this obsession with that just spills over all the time into anti-Semitism.
Rika Bird speaks to Westerman at the end of the interview.
When he says, where are you from? Are you from Israel? That's an absolute lie. I didn't say that.
With Westerman's permission, the two women record the interview.
The full recording shows what actually did happen. Curious because I haven't been in the Labour Party very long and I've certainly never been to anything like this informal interview before. So I'm just curious about, like, what branch are you in?
I don't think that's relevant.
Okay.
I hope that's okay. I'm sorry, I don't think where I'm from is at all relevant to the investigation.
I did ask Westerman, what branch are you from? Meaning what branch of the Labour Party, because it was a Labour Party internal investigation. The word Israel never came into the exchange between me and Westerman.
By the way, full marks for Oscar-level acting to this Jewish Labour official, Ben Westerman. Reacting to this broadcast, Novara Media's co-founder, Aaron Bastani, had tweeted, and I quote, "Watch this, your jaw will drop. John Ware has destroyed the credibility of Panorama from here on in. Those like Ben Westerman should be nowhere near public office or power. This is absolutely extraordinary and Ware shouldn't work for the BBC ever again." End quote. This wasn't the only dishonest bit of that BBC Panorama broadcast. The program had aired the clip of one Jewish woman, Izzy Lenga. The BBC had doctored her video too to make her comments sound sensational and to project Corbyn as an evil leader under whose tenure the hatred for Jewish members had reached epic proportions. Watch the broadcast first.
Izzy Lenga was JLM's international officer. She tells a remarkable story.
I'm Izzy Lenga. I joined the Labour Party in 2015. The anti-Semitic abuse I received was what I was subjected to every single day. Telling me Hitler was right, telling me Hitler did not go far enough.
And she came up with this utterly shocking statement, which really emphasised the scale of what one could only describe as the immorality and the depravity of Corbyn's Labour Party. But is it really true? I mean, we can check this out.
In 2015, when Lenga was at university, neo-Nazi posters appear on campus saying, "Hitler was right." Lenga is involved in getting them removed and receives online anti-Semitic abuse.
If you read this article in the Daily Mail, and it's also in subsequent reporting, there's no suggestion in it that the Labour Party is involved at all, or the left. It's a strong suggestion in it, actually. It comes from the sort of fascist right.
It took 3 years for the BBC to issue a confession without apology, though, that it had indeed doctored Izzy Lenga's clip. What was broadcast by the BBC wasn't what Izzy Lenga has said. Her words were this, and I quote, "I am Izzy Lenga. I joined the Labour Party in 2015. When I was a student," this is important, this is not what BBC had broadcast. "When I was a student, being quite a high-profile Jewish woman student, I was subjected to quite a lot of nasty vitriol and abuse. The anti-Semitic abuse I received was what I was subjected to every single day. predictably, a lot of it came from the far-right neo-Nazi abuse. So she was talking about her university day experience, but the BBC doctored her video to pass it off as if it happened during Jeremy Corbyn's time. So predictably, a lot of it came from the far-right neo-Nazi abuse, telling me Hitler was right, telling me Hitler did not go far enough, and even more. What absolutely baffled me was at the same time I was receiving very similar and almost often the exact same tropes and anti-Semitic abuse from the far left. End quote. Now you tell me why Corbyn and his team didn't pursue the matter as vigorously as Trump is doing now. How come John Ware was not banned from the BBC? Why didn't any heads roll within the BBC for this criminal action? What I just quoted still exists on the BBC website under the clarifications and corrections heading. You can see it on the screen right now. But the BBC rewarded Ware again by hiring him to present another Panorama program at the peak of Israel's genocidal campaign in Gaza. In February 2024, to be precise. This was the time when Israeli terrorists had slaughtered tens of thousands of innocent and unarmed Palestinians in Gaza and were dropping lethal bombs across the territory. War criminal Benjamin Netanyahu and his barbarian friends had adopted a policy of starvation and collective punishment against Palestinians. But the BBC's priority was to commission a Panorama program to investigate the secret wealth of Hamas officials. I mean, seriously? Of course, this John Ware chap too had received plenty of criticism on social media then. Commenting on the program and Ware's questionable role, journalist Jonathan Cook had written this, and I quote, "Ware informed us that Hamas's secret financial empire derived from various funding sources directly from Iran and Qatar, but also from humanitarian aid provided by international donors. The program concluded that these donors were effectively subsidizing Hamas's war machine by easing the economic burden on Hamas in providing, insofar as was possible given Israel's siege, essentials such as food, water, and power to Gaza civilians." End quote. Cook didn't stop here. He went on to write this, and I quote, "If journalists," and this is very damning, "if journalists are ever brought to The Hague accused of complicity in the current genocide, there should surely be a place reserved in the dock for Ware," he's talking about John Ware, "and his BBC team for breathing credibility into this monstrous argument." End quote. So what we are witnessing now is nothing new. The BBC had turned rogue a long time ago, and we continue to look the other way after every editorial violation. And in the meantime, the Israeli lobby's grip over this organization kept getting stronger. It reached to a point where opposing a genocide became a crime, and making fun of genocide victims was considered cool. And this is the same organization which was once considered the crown jewel of British society. This just shows how deep a quagmire the British and Western society has fallen into. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.